Okay, guys, this is our last slide and our last unit here on the 90s, 2000s. History is made. But we'll start with some failures. Um, President Bush, after foreign affairs dominating his first term, would really turn to domestic affairs in his second term. He failed in proposing a program that would privatize Social Security. As it is now, the government takes a lot of your tax money and they invest it, and then you get it back when you retire. Republicans typically, not always, but typically Republicans favor allowing you to keep your tax money and you invest it to pay for your retirement rather than the government doing all of that. Bush had this grand plan here that was going to allow people to invest their own money and pay for their own retirement. It fails. Okay, the government turns out the government likes having your money and investing it. So Social Security privatization will fail. Bush also fails in passing a constitutional amendment to ban gay marriage. He figures the country is ready for this, and it's not. No, gay marriage is now legalized in many states, so it certainly has not been banned. Bush's biggest failure will really sort of come inadvertently here with the arrival of Hurricane Katrina in late 2005. Okay. How do I say this? This was the largest in terms of size hurricane to ever hit the United States, the third strongest ever to hit the United States. At its height, by the time it was done, 80% of New Orleans was underwater. A 150 billion with a B, $150 billion economic impact in the United States. Over 1,800 people died. This was one of the, simply put, the worst natural disaster to hit the United States. And the response to it is very slow and very muddled. Part of the problem, the fault is of Bush. Part of it is of the governors of Gulf Coast states. Most of these Gulf Coast states have Democratic governors. The Republican President Bush, according to federal law, the president cannot take over areas in a state without the governor giving him permission to. The federal government just can't come in and take over your state. The government has to allow it. The Democratic governors wanted to look like they were the ones, saving the day. They're the heroes coming in to take care of these people and everything, and they just couldn't. They didn't have the money. But they were hesitant to let the Republican president take credit for it. So they were very slow in handing over control to Bush. But it looks like a Bush problem because this is a national disaster. Right? The world steps up to help. More than 70 different countries donated money to help the rebuilding effort. The country that made the largest donation, $500 million. Just one country. Take a guess. Nope, you're wrong. I'm going to guess that you're wrong because nobody will ever guess this. The country that made the largest donation, $500 million, was Kuwait. Tiny little Kuwait in the middle of the Middle East on the Persian Gulf, in thanks for the United States helping drive Iraq out after they invaded Kuwait. Kuwait turns around and says, thank you very much. Here's $500 million to help with your rebuilding. So Bush's second term does not go real well here, at least in terms of domestic affairs. Now, in the middle of all that, we have midterm elections, and because the Republican president has not been doing well, and the economy is starting to get bad here, just starting, the Democrats are going to retake control of Congress, and that will put a woman named Nancy Pelosi, you see her picture right here, Nancy Pelosi would become the first female Speaker of the House in U.S. history. Okay? Second in line to the presidency, right behind the vice president. So the Republicans will pay here for Bush's failures at the polls. Okay? Now, that brings us to 2008. A very interesting election here because really of the primaries in the Democrats. The Democrats would see two challengers fighting for the Democratic nomination. Okay? A first-time Illinois Senator Barack Obama and New York Senator Hillary Clinton would battle it out for the Democratic nomination. Here you see the funny little mishmash of pictures there. Why choose? If you can combine, there you see the Barack Obama face on the Hillary head with the hair and all that there. So you get the mishmash of Hillary and Obama. As you know, Obama will win the Democratic nomination. The Republicans will nominate longtime Arizona Senator and Vietnam veteran John McCain. He's a very moderate Republican. Both sides really liked him, Democrats and Republicans. McCain was respected by both sides. But the Republicans really wanted someone very conservative then for his vice presidential pick. And this is really why this campaign is well known here, because you have Alaska Governor Sarah Palin. You see McCain and Palin there. Very conservative Republican Alaska governor here. So you end up with a Alaska governor who is a female, which is odd enough in itself, on one side of the ticket. You end up with the first black presidential nominee on the other side of the ticket. So interesting campaign here. Now, it's a very tight race until late in the campaign when the economy will take over. The economy takes the worst dip since the Great Depression. In the mid-2008, right before, just a few months before the election, the economy collapses. The credit crisis. Okay? Banks, mortgage companies, lending agencies had been making for years and years and years and years too many bad loans, a whole series of bad loans to people who couldn't pay them back. So these credit companies, the two largest mortgage companies in the country, had to be bailed out by the U.S. government as the economy completely tanked. Bush and the Republicans will get blamed, and McCain won't stand a chance. This was a very, very close campaign. It was going to be an extremely close election until the economy tanked and the Republicans get blamed, which will bring Obama, President Obama, to win the 2008 election. He will gradually turn around the economy. And by the time we get to 2012, the economy has rebounded. It is not all the way back, but it is clearly on its way back. It is on upswing. So the Democrats will nominate Obama for re-election, and he will run against former Massachusetts Governor Mitt Romney as the Republican nominee. Romney was a Mormon, so religion we haven't seen this really since Kennedy in 1960. Religion becomes a big part of the campaign. But the rebounding economy here really would push Obama to an easy re-election. Okay. So, history is made. Some of you have asked in class why this is such a short unit, why the 80s was such a short unit. It's pretty simple. As we get closer to modern times here, we don't know what is going to be historically important and significant in the long run. We don't know what's going to have long-term effects. We can look back at the 1930s and 40s and see 60, 70 years later why what they did was important now. We just simply haven't been out of the 90s and 2000s, really even the 80s, long enough at this point to really know what's going to have a long-lasting impact. So, if you want to know, ask your kids when they take U.S. history at Trinity as a junior with Mr. Rapp. Guys, been a good year. I've enjoyed it. Study for your last test.